Hello,
What up?
Alex.
Welcome to Happy
How you
Hour,
doing?
Beers and Brands.
Beers and brands. Yes, this is a very special week on Brand is Everything. We've got our very own enterprise product marketing lead, Alex Ganibus, joining. We're going to look at a really cool one today.
Mike, what are you drinking?
This is a hazy IPA from a brewery in San Luis Obispo called There Does Not Exist. Awesome brewery.
Nice.
What do
I
you
have a
have?
Pilsner today. This is from Odell Brewing, which is local to Denver brewery. So,
I
yeah,
love, I
excited to
love we
talk
repping
about
our
some boozy brands today. What do you got for us?
Okay, let's check it out. This is a really, really cool one out of a branding agency from Brazil called Biabum. And this brand and restaurant and bar is called Salva Bar. So this is a bar that's in Rio de Janeiro, but it's the passion project of their head chef, whose name is Fabricio Chagas. And Fabricio grew up in the state of Bahia in Brazil, which is the northeastern part of Brazil. Since this bar is in Rio, it has a really awesome influence on their visual identity and all of their branding in that it's very much represents the state of Bahia and where he's from, even though the different regions within Brazil all have their own look and feel. He has this little line, his like thesis line, so to speak, where he says that he created his own Bahia in Rio. So it's really the impetus for the way that this brand acts, the way that it looks, and the way that it feels. One of the coolest parts I think about this brand, aside from how beautiful it is that they took influence from the three geographical types of terrain that are in the Bahia region. So the sea, the land, and the mangrove. And they all have this different representation in the brand. So the sea brings forth lightness, the airiness, the sun. The land obviously has that kind of tradition and that like affection and family feel. And then the mangrove is what brings together the greenery, the gathering, the rhythm of the place. They translated that triptych concept into the actual architecture of the restaurant. And so they mapped out those three worlds onto the three floors of this building. So the ground floor represents the sea, the middle represents the family gathering place, and then the top is representative of the mangrove, and that's where they have live music. So there's this really cool identity baked into the architecture of the place itself.
Very cool. Yeah, the first thing I noticed about this was that it includes local elements. I've never been to Brazil. I would love to go to Brazil now that I'm seeing this bar so we could visit it. But anytime you have a bar or a restaurant brand, you want to celebrate what's local. You want to celebrate the food. And I can see those local elements translating to the drawing. One thing I noticed here is the crabs translate to the drawing, the illustration of the crabs. You see it come through directly in the food. So
yeah, it's a really good point out too. There's this big cultural tradition specifically in that region, but I think it's across the entire country of Brazil in their design of the woodcut covers. So it's a form of relief printmaking where it's obviously a really strong visual tie throughout this entire brand. It has a really good cultural tie-in without trying to cosplay. And I think that the main success of this whole identity and brand is, in general, is that they took all of these elements of the true traditions of the land and they didn't try to get hokey with it. They did them all justice by using the real design traditions that is in that state. They use these actual wood print relief printmaking techniques to make these posters. They took inspiration from a really famous author and illustrator named Jorge Amado, who has all these special edition book covers. And he has this really particular style of sign painting. And that's how they built the Salva Bar logo that you see in some of these images. They're taking real tradition and they're not trying to appropriate it at all. They're paying a really clear homage to the tradition of the land and of the design of this country.
Mike, tell me a little bit about like the colors used because that is one of the other first things I noticed was the colors are very inviting, warm, fun, which is exactly what I want in a bar, like somewhere that makes me feel happy.
They definitely have this super primary palette, but also some infusion of almost neons. Exactly as you said, I think that in a place that is so culturally rich, and something like a restaurant where the main experience that you're supposed to get is enjoyment and fun and just have a great time. Using those primary colors and these fun and inviting colors is just a really nice way to bring out a little bit and evoke that emotion from the people who are going to be dining there. I think something too that really stuck with me was there was one other thing about the one of these marks, I'm going to go a little bit closer in here to this one right here. So this mark specifically, this is called the Carranca, Carranca. This is a really classic symbol in Brazil, and it is meant to be a protective spirit. So people have these big-eyed, fierce-looking figure, and it's also in front of their homes, and they also put it on boats. So it's meant to be this protective element. It protects the crew. It keeps your doorways. They're like talismans of welcome. So it keeps doorways at bay. It keeps the bad spirits out. And it's meant to be this symbolic thing where it protects the home, it protects the crew. So I thought that that was really beautiful that they still kept that woodcut relief style poster and they like brought it to life in this cool kind of reinterpretation of it.
I love that. Super meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, if you zoom out a little bit, another thing I noticed was how it's executed across touch points, like what the servers are wearing, the shirts. Even if you look at the interior of the bar, I took a peek through their Instagram and saw that they have like amazing wallpaper and artwork and all these things that also tie into the brand. So how do you execute a brand identity across everything, like the menu, the plates I see you have down there, the bags, the napkins, all of that?
Yeah, it's great question. Like any brand, you have your basic elements. You've got your photography, your typography, your color palette, your logo, and then any other kind of graphical elements or brand additions. And I think the fact that they have a very clear thesis of how they've created these elements in that they are born of tradition also gives them flexibility and range to be able to apply that kind of thing to any creative touch point. So like you're saying, it can almost become this mini brief within this larger brief of a brand of, okay, hey, we need menus to be printed, or we need matchboxes, or we have swag and merch that we want to give. What things can we pull from our cultural traditions and apply that to this given creative touch point? Which I feel like as a creative is just a really fun, open brief. When you have something that's such a clear identity, it allows you to be way more creative with your output instead of just saying, well, we have 3 icons. We'll just randomly apply those to any touch point that we have. You can be a lot more intentional with it.
Another thing I love about this is it's a small business, and yet they went so hard. They went so hard with their branding. And I love it when a small bar or a coffee shop or a brewery, right, just leans so hard into branding. What is the importance of branding, even as a small business like that?
It's to be remembered, right? That's what most brands are meant to do. Going back to my initial point here, which I think is the strongest part of this, is that it's the authenticity of it. It's like they're not trying to cosplay. They're not trying to be anything that they're not. They're actually very much trying to stick to the head chef's general thesis. He came from this place. This place has very specific traditions and he wants to like honor that. When you have a brand that does that successfully, you don't really need to be anything that you're not. So the way that this brand has this beautiful visual tie through all the touch points, it just becomes memorable. Like when you're doing something that feels really authentic, those are the brands I think that get remembered. When that's remembered in the eye of the customer or in the mind of someone who wants to come and interact with your brand, it becomes something that, however our brains work, you're going to want to go back there and try it again. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Cheers to that.
Hey, cheers. Some of this too is like making me really hungry.
There's a reason I wanted to record this from a brewery. Like when you showed me this bar, I'm thinking, okay, I need to go grab something from a bar to talk about this, or I'm going to go
Yeah,
crazy.
you and I have had the conversations before about all the bars in the South where they have multiple stories and levels, like in Texas or in Tennessee, where each level is its whole own vibe. You could have square dancing, line dancing, and then you go up a level and it's an actual nightclub. And then you go another level and it's a really intimate bluegrass band. And I thought that the way that they built the architecture around this brand idea was really cool and smart from the get-go. I just want to go to this place and experience it because it seems like not only will they have awesome food and sick branding, we could get some really cool merch, but just experiencing that from that 3-level system would just be really cool.
It's brand identity coming through in a sense of place and not just through something physical that you're buying. I know we've talked about a range of brands in this series before. We've talked about cosmetics, for example, where it's a specific product. Here, the product is the experience. And so how is the brand coming through in the experience in the place?
Yeah. That's really well said. And I think too, that authenticity comes in picking the right references of a place. I keep coming back to this idea that it's not cosplay. They easily could have picked things that felt very universally Brazilian, but in here, just as in all good design, the discipline is choosing not what's always super obvious, and it's being able to be a sculptor. You look at a block of marble and you actually have to shave away the correct amount of things to reveal what the essence of that block was. That's what really good design is about the intention of what not to use and the intention of what to take away so that you're left with something that feels super authentic and memorable.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
this is a really cool brand. Now I want to go to Brazil, so maybe we should do that for our next company trip.
Hey, I'm down. We always talk
But in the
about like,
meantime,
in the meantime, we're there
in the
in
meantime, we've
spirit.
got this.
We're there in spirit. Well, Alex, thank you. We're going to have to do more brands and brews. This has been a great episode. And next time you bring the brand and I'll bring the brews.
Sounds perfect. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers.